Republicans, Kentuckians, lend me your ears. And my pardon to Mr. Shakespeare tonight. Welcome to this event tonight, 1st District Lincoln-Reagan dinner, and the opportunity that we have tonight to come together. We want to welcome you and hope that you'll come together and honor our God now as we get ready, our country and foundations of what we would call conservatism. And we know that as we talk about Lincoln and Reagan, we know these presidents and leaders embraced freedom and morality as the light needed for a democratic republic to succeed. And in our state, the birthplace of Abraham Lincoln, we tonight want to rally around our Republican candidates to bring an end to the dimming of our freedom and democracy in Kentucky by the likes of Governor Andy Beshear and his minions. Hello? Let's begin here tonight being grateful for those freedoms that we celebrate despite the way our world is going. And we want to take just a moment first and honor a group of those that have served our armed forces. And if you are able, if you've served in our armed forces, would you please stand tonight? And I'd like to ask any of those who have been involved in the military, not only our military, but any of the other uniformed services that have been first responders, if you would please also stand. I know we have some here tonight. Yeah. And so we want to honor our country with a prayer, our pledge of allegiance, and our national anthem. And so let me welcome here tonight Dr. Winfield Rose, Professor Emeritus of Murray State University. And our pledge is going to be given by our treasurer of the Calloway County Republican Party, Thomas Collins, who will come up. Also a member of the U.S. Armed Forces, and our national anthem will be sung by Lisa Whitlow. If you would please stand for our invocation.
Father, we thank you for the opportunity that we have this evening together for good food and fellowship among friends. We thank you for the lives, the legacies, and the faith of the two presidents that we honor tonight. We thank you they were godly men, and they led our country in godly ways. Father, we pray for all of our elected officials, regardless of party or persuasion. We pray they will follow your will in the decisions that they make. We thank you for all of our veterans and our first responders and our Gold Star families. We pray that you will restore their hearts and heal their souls. We thank you for all of our blessings to live in this great country of ours. And now we thank you for the food that we're about to enjoy. We pray that you will use it to the nourishment of our bodies and us to your service. And we ask these things in the name of your one and only Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
The American flag symbolizes the greatness of our nation. Let us honor the flag with a right hand over our hearts. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so
All right, be seated, please. Thank you. All right, just before we get ready for dinner, as one of the highlights of here, I hear a lot of people talk about the roast beef and the carved beef that we have tonight. Look forward to that. I want to recognize a few folks that are with us and as guests, and we want to talk just for a few minutes about those folks. Welcome to Stephen Rudy. Did I see Stephen Rudy here? Stephen Rudy over here. Okay, Stephen Rudy, Majority Leader here in Kentucky. Do I see Kenny and Mary Beth Imes? Are they here? They're coming. They will be here. Okay. Also, Richard Heath, House District 2. I think Richard is in the back right there. Randy Bridges is District 3, representing Livingston and McCracken counties. Chris Freeland is with us tonight, District 6. Senator Jason Howell, where are you, Senator? I think right back in the back. Kevin Spriggs from Marshall County. Kevin, where are you? Right over here. First District Committee Treasurer Danny Holt is here from Marshall County. Danny. First District at-large member Tom Tye, one of our sponsors tonight here at this table. Also, First District at-large member Dennis Draper and his wife, Tina Draper. Tina's our secretary. All right. And Senator Mitch McConnell's field representative, Morgan Albee. Where are you, Morgan? Right over here. All right. Well, thank you for everyone for being here tonight. We want to make sure that everyone has, first of all, a good time and the opportunity that we have to dine together and to hear from some of our candidates as we come up here into the general election. So before we eat, let me direct you to one thing on your table from the Commonwealth Policy Center. The newsletter on your table is just off the presses, and that's going to be delivered statewide. It focuses on the absurdity of the Bashir campaign, full of lies and myths. So please take a copy of that with you and share that with folks around you. And again, that will be distributed throughout the state as well. All right, now it's time to eat. Let's take a moment. We're going to be doing that. And I'd like to let our tables here in the front go first. And we're going to start from right here from the middle. And then we'll just go, all of our front tables go straight around to the table to start with. All right. Daniel Cameron has not arrived yet. This is Daniel Cameron's table right here. But we're going to let that table go first and then follow through from first row, second row, third row. Thank you very much. Let's eat. Hey, everybody, let me get your attention back here today and this evening. Take just a moment. I want to introduce a little video that we have. And this video, I think you'll find very interesting. It was sent to me by a friend of mine, Eric Horner. Anybody heard of Eric Horner? He's actually done a lot of gospel music in the region from Paducah, and I think he may live down in Clarksville now. But this is a good video, I think, to establish kind of who we are as a nation.
A storm is coming soon that will sweep across our land, dividing all the sheep from those who'll take a stand. The enemy we're facing wants to have complete control, but we know our God is for us in the battle for our soul. America, get ready, 'cause you're about to see the majority rise up to keep our nation free. We've had enough, the time has come to right all that is wrong. Oh, America, get ready, 'cause we're taking back our home. watching evil work before our very eyes. When those in charge are talking, all they do is lie. They've put our country last, and it's been going on too long. They're about to reap the harvest of the seeds that they have sown. America, get ready, 'cause you're about to see the majority rise up to keep our nation free. We've had enough, the time has come to right all that is wrong. Oh, America, get ready, we're taking back our home. Our liberty is gone if we don't make a change. The way of life we've known will never be the same. America, get ready, 'cause you're about to see the majority rise up to keep our nation free. We've had enough, the time has come to right all that is wrong. Oh, America, get ready, 'cause we're taking back our home. We've had enough, the time has come to right all that is wrong. Oh, America, get ready, we're taking back our home. We're taking back our home.
Right. Take it back. Hey, I want to take just a moment and talk about just a couple of table sponsors here. I want to thank Steve and Rudy for hosting a table tonight. And just saw Robbie Mills come in too. There's Robbie down here. David Taylor, thank you for sponsoring the Russell Coleman table. Appreciate you for that, Russell. I mentioned Tom Ty earlier. Tom Ty is sponsoring the Daniel Cameron table. The Daniel table. Peggy Taylor, thank you for sponsoring the candidates, Mr. Metcalf, Ball, and Adams, all here at this table here. My notes are just beside me here. And also Kim Holloway, who's a candidate for Kentucky 2nd District Representative over here at this table on the end. Good to have you, and thank you for sponsoring that table. One other quick sponsorship, Congressman James Comer is sponsoring the students here in the center and around, I think right here in the middle. Let's give it up for all of our college Republicans here tonight. Also want to thank Steve Farmer, our chairman of the Calloway County Party, Matt Reck, vice chair, also Peggy Taylor, secretary, and Thomas Collins, our treasurer. Thank them for all that they've done tonight as well. So in a lot of situations like this, we have some videos from our senators, and we're going to play first with Senator McConnell is getting queued up here.
Hello, my fellow Kentucky Republicans. Sorry I can't be with you in person, but I'd like to take a moment to thank you for all you do to support the conservative movement in Kentucky. Your dedication makes all the difference. All eyes are on Kentucky this year, and Bashir has been hard at work putting his leftish vision into action. And unfortunately, the damage caused by Democrats' destructive policies is literally all around us, from crippling inflation, dampening our economy, to spiking crime, crushing Main Street, to a southern border in shambles. It's clear Kentuckians don't like what they're getting. This year, our party celebrated the largest voter registration lead in Kentucky history, thanks in large part to your hard work. Kentucky Republicans are leading the way with common sense, conservative solutions while keeping Beshear on his back foot at every turn. Now we have our biggest challenge yet this fall, and that's putting a Republican back in the governor's mansion. I know we've got what it takes to give Beshear the boot once and for all this November. Led by Daniel Cameron, our slate of Republicans is stronger than ever before, and with your help, we'll make it happen.
All right, and so we also have a message from our Senator Rand Paul, and that's up next.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry I couldn't be there in person, but I'd like to give you a quick update from Washington. Whether it's the job losses, inflation, or healthcare issues, we continue to feel the impact of COVID shutdowns. Government interventions didn't slow the virus one bit. They only made a bad situation worse. Dr. Fauci, Joe Biden, the left-wing media, our governor, they all left us a mess to clean up. I've spent the last couple of years trying to clean up some of that mess and right the wrongs created by short-sighted mandates and policies. In our state, we need to never forget that our governor, I call him DWP, Drunk with Power Beshear, closed the churches. He forbid travel. He closed the restaurants. He closed the hotels. Almost every one of his policies was eventually struck down. Our Attorney General fought a lot of these, Daniel Cameron. He's now running for governor. And I think we need to send a rebuke to Andy Beshear and make sure that he knows that we're never, ever going to let him shut down the schools and the restaurants and the hotels and our businesses again. As a ranking member of the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, I proposed an amendment to support fire departments that reinstate those dismissed for opposing COVID-19 mandates with back pay. They served their communities bravely. They made their neighbors safe. They're often young and healthy, and most of them had already had COVID, and they're trying to force them to take vaccines. It was wrong, and they should be rehired and given back full pay, and we should not have a government that is policing you and telling you you can't work because you don't agree with their medical philosophy. What was done to them was done to police. What was done to first responders, it was shameful. And we should stand together to make sure it never happens again. I've introduced the COVID-19 Vaccination Non-Discrimination Act to prevent federally funded healthcare facilities from denying care based on vaccination status. I'm also proud to have co-sponsored the Americans Act of 2023, addressing the Defense Department's vaccine mandate. We've gotten a lot of conversations from people who were let go from the military, and once again, it was unfair. We've heard from doctors and nurses who were let go, unfair. Many of these doctors, nurses, firemen, police were out there doing what they needed to do for an entire year when there wasn't a vaccine anyway. Most of them got COVID while taking care of people, and yet the government, in an ill-conceived decision, decided, oh, natural immunity didn't work and we're going to fire these people. It was wrong, and we should continue to send a message to our government. We're not going to tolerate it. Most recently, I sent another criminal referral to the Department of Justice to prosecute Tony Fauci for perjury. There are mountains of evidence that he lied to Congress under oath. An email revealed last week shows that he admitted that there was gain-of-function research in the lab in Wuhan and that he was funding it. Precisely what he said in the Congress, in the committee. He came to our committee and said he never funded gain-of-function research. So he has been lying from the very beginning. We now have him lying in his own words. We're not going to let it go, and we're going to continue to push for his prosecution. I've stood against government overreach and exposed waste, fraud, and abuse throughout my tenure. I've recently criticized the Department of Homeland Security for not investigating COVID-19 origins and raised concerns about its record on censorship and tracking political speech. I've introduced a bill, now the Free Speech Act, which says to government, you cannot meet with Twitter, you cannot meet with YouTube, you cannot meet with Facebook to suppress constitutionally protected speech. I'm determined to find out the truth about the origin of COVID-19. I'm blocking every single one of President Biden's nominations until the administration hands over its COVID documents. You and I have a right to know the truth, and I won't stop until we have full transparency. I've always prioritized the Constitution and Americans' natural rights. I've never supported an unbalanced budget and have always fought to protect our civil liberties. This bill that we have just mentioned about free speech, Chairman Jim Jordan and I are doing this together. This is something that regulates government, that forbids government from censoring your speech, and I think it will be a big improvement. We as Americans are a free people, and we do not take infringements upon our liberties lightly. The time has come for resistance and to reclaim our God-given right to free expression. I pledge to continue fighting for liberty and your right to be left alone as long as I serve. But I can't do this alone. Your grassroots support and involvement are invaluable. We must work together to hold our elected officials accountable and promote the freedoms that make our country great. Thank you for your grassroots leadership, your support and involvement over the past years. Thank you for your continued support, and I look forward to seeing you in person soon.
Well, I'm grateful, first of all, for one thing, that Daniel Cameron is here in person tonight. We appreciate him so much. And Daniel Cameron serves as the 51st Attorney General for the Commonwealth of Kentucky after winning nearly 58% of the votes and 113 of the 120 counties in the state. Daniel's the first African American elected to a standalone statewide office in Kentucky's history. He's the first Republican to hold the office of Attorney General since 1948. He's an advocate for the unborn, supportive of our law enforcement, and among other things, received the endorsement of Donald Trump. Daniel and his wife Mackenzie live in Louisville. They welcomed their first child, Theodore, into the world 2022, and he's been a wonderful gift from God, according to Daniel. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Cameron.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Please. Thank you all. Thank you. Well, it is an honor to be here with you all tonight and to see so many friends and folks that have become like family to me, whether it's the Travises or Greg or a whole host of you all that have meant the world to me, not even only in this race for governor, but back in 2019 when nobody knew who I was and Judge Imes decided to take a risk on me. So thank you all for your friendship and your kindness, and I'm excited. I'm fired up. Like you heard Senator Rand Paul and Senator McConnell talk about, come November 7th, we are going to retire Andy Beshear from the governor's office. And I know he's not here tonight, but can we just give it up for Jamie Comer? Yeah. You know, Robbie Mills, who will be Kentucky's next lieutenant governor, he and I would, that's right. You know, Robbie and I have been traveling all over the state. We were in Union County earlier for the Corn Festival Parade. We were over in Paducah, as I saw some of you all, Randy Bridges and others, to cut the ribbon on their new campaign headquarters. Of course, I'm here now, and as I've been traveling through, you know, especially as I got here, I said, you know, who wouldn't want to enjoy time in this district? I mean, who wouldn't enjoy getting to see all these good people and smiling faces and spending time with loved ones and folks that are avid supporters of conservative and common sense causes? And right as we were pulling up, I said, well, I guess I know one person.
Hunter Biden probably doesn't want to be in the 1st District this evening. You know, in 2022, Jamie Comer helped run Nancy Pelosi out of the speakership. He's getting ready to help run Hunter Biden out of the White House in 2023. We're all going to run Joe Biden out of the White House. But let me tell you why I'm so confident about November. I mean, as has been talked about already, we have got more registered Republicans than Democrats. I mean, there are 70,000 more registered Republicans than Democrats. A lot of that has been brought to us by the fact that Andy Beshear has been in office these last 3.5 years. So we've got the voter registration. The other thing that is really critical to remember, which is completely different from 2019, is that in 2019, the Governor Bevin had to contend with a third-party candidate, a libertarian candidate that siphoned off 30,000 votes that would have gone to Matt Bevin. But this year, we don't have a third-party candidate because we've done a strong job of unifying the Republican Party. So it really is a binary choice between me and Andy Beshear, and we're going to run Joe Biden out in 2024, and we're going to run out Andy Beshear on November 7th of this year. But why I am most confident is because of you all. It's because you all, whether it's as I talked to Suzanne and Vicki. Where are Suzanne and Vicki? I talked to Suzanne and Vicki as they were going through the food line. And just today, they were out writing, 50 letters encouraging people to go to the polls to vote. I know Ezra is here in this room. Where's Ezra? I know Ezra last night at 7:30. Let's give it up for Ezra. College Republicans, Ezra, others were knocking on doors at 7:30 last night to encourage people to go to the polls and vote for this Republican slate of candidates. And that is why I'm confident. It's because you all want to see leadership in this state that reflects your values. And a governor that will stand with Joe Biden and the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence will not cut it for the Commonwealth any longer. I mean, we have to be realistic. You know, Andy Beshear tries to run away from Joe Biden, but Joe Biden knows that Andy Beshear is his man in Kentucky. In fact, Joe Biden cares so much about this race that he put $250,000 into Andy Beshear's campaign. But you don't have to just follow the money. I mean, Joe Biden's disastrous policies have made their way to Kentucky through Andy Beshear. I mean, all of us in this room care about the futures of our kids and our grandkids, but Andy Beshear is doing everything he possibly can to undermine that future. I mean, think about the issue of crime. This is a governor that has let out, in his term, nearly 2,000 criminals. And a third of those have recommitted felony offenses all across Kentucky, making law enforcement's job more difficult and our communities less safe. And then when he actually decided to deploy law enforcement into our communities, it wasn't to keep them safe. It was to record license plates at churches. That's what Andy Beshear believes that our law enforcement community should be doing. But let me tell you, I'm proud to be the Attorney General that after 9 days got our churches reopened in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And Robbie and I are also proud, and like Ronald Reagan talked about, it's not about only talking about what the other person isn't doing right. It's about offering a vision for the future. And that's why Robbie and I put forth our public safety plan that is about making sure that we improve the morale of our law enforcement community by giving them retention and recruitment bonuses. Making sure that Kentucky has a carjacking statute. Believe it or not, we are one of the few states in the nation that does not have a carjacking statute. But you and I know that if we address the small things, it'll prevent the larger societal issues from ever coming into play. And then finally, and I hope this means a little more in this area, I think that if you commit the ultimate act and you murder a police officer, we as Kentuckians and as the legislature need to pass a law that makes the death penalty automatic. Yeah. And because Robbie and I have been willing to talk about these issues and to speak boldly and courageously on them, over 200 law enforcement officials have endorsed this campaign, and the Kentucky State Fraternal Order of Police, which, mind you, they endorsed Andy Beshear in 2019, but have seen differently this time and have endorsed this campaign for governor. It's a big deal because at the end of the day, like most, they're tired of a governor that just says the right things. They want a governor and a lieutenant governor that are going to do the right things and always stand up for our law enforcement community. Yeah. I mean, this is also a governor that, along with Joe Biden, is doing everything they can to undermine our families. I mean, think about the fact that since Andy Beshear has become governor, we have the 47th lowest workforce participation rate in the country. Since he's taken the oath of office, there are 27,000 fewer Kentuckians working. 80,000 Kentuckians are on unemployment. Our unemployment rate is higher than the national average. I mean, that is to look at when we gauge the energy and the vitality of our economy. It's how many people are actively looking for work. But this governor, the welfare governor, has expanded our welfare rolls, and because he shut down our small businesses for nearly 2 years, he sapped the desire of a lot of folks to want to work. But Robbie and I want to change that. We want to establish a culture of work, and we know that we need to get folks out of their homes and back into the work environment. And the way that we do that is by making sure that we eliminate the income tax rate here in Kentucky so that people, when they get up in the morning, aren't simply penalized because they decide to go to work in the morning. I want this Commonwealth to be a pro-growth and a pro-family state. And I want more of your hard-earned dollars in your pocket because you deserve them. And let me just say, I stand here before you today unapologetically pro-life. Amen. Here is a governor who has spent his entire career in public life being indifferent to life. I mean, if Andy Beshear had his way, there would be no limits on abortion in Kentucky. And I say that based on his public record. I mean, when he was the Attorney General, he refused to defend a law that banned abortions after 20 weeks. As the sitting governor, he vetoed a legislation that would have banned abortion after 15 weeks. And then when our legislature gave him a bill designed to protect babies who have been born alive after a failed abortion, and that's Andy Beshear's record. And then in 2022, gearing up to run for re-election, he signed a pledge saying that he was for taxpayers paying for abortions. That's Andy Beshear. But that's not Kentucky. We are a pro-life state, and I'm going to stand up for the lives of the unborn. We have got to be about the business of promoting a culture of life when it comes to our kids. I mean, think about Kentucky having a governor that would veto legislation to protect our kids from these gender reassignment surgeries. But that's Andy Beshear. He vetoed that legislation. And then on top of that, you've got a governor that vetoed legislation to protect women's sports from biological males. I mean, that is Andy Beshear. That is the governor that we have right now. Someone who is indifferent to our kids and standing up for them, and is indifferent to protecting women's sports. But let me tell you about Daniel Cameron and Robbie Mills. We're going to stand up and protect women's sports from biological males, and we are going to save our kids from these transgender surgeries. You know, Riley Gaines, maybe some of you all have seen it, just put out an ad endorsing our campaign for governor. And let me just tell you, in one of Riley's ads, she says she's ready for a real man to be the next governor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. But I think all of us are ready for real leadership. Leadership that's not only going to just, again, say the right things, but do the right things. I mean, you have to be concerned about a governor who professes an appreciation for our education system and our teachers, but did everything he could over the last 2.5 years to undermine our education system. I mean, here is a governor that while he was shutting down our small businesses and unlocking our jails to let out criminals, he was locking down our schools. Locking them down for nearly 2 years. And our kids have significant learning loss because of it. I mean, some of our kids right now, nearly 50% actually, aren't even at grade level when it comes to reading. And on the issues of math and science, the tests are even worse. And that's not to mention the fact that because Andy Beshear demonstrated an indifference to going to school, nearly 30% of our kids in this Commonwealth fall into the category of what's called chronic absenteeism. Meaning because he gave up on school, a lot of kids are giving up on school. And then to add insult to injury, he essentially put in place a commissioner at the Kentucky Department of Education in the name of Jason Glass, who said to the members of our legislature that even in the midst of a teacher shortage, he said that if you are a hardworking teacher but you express any concerns about some of the gender ideology curriculum making its way into our schools, Jason Glass's solution for that teacher was that they should just find another job. That's what the head, Andy Beshear's hand-picked head of our commission, of our Kentucky Department of Education said about hardworking teachers. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you right now, Jason Glass was wrong. Hardworking teachers don't need to find another job. Andy Beshear needs to find another job, and you and I will help him do that on November 7th. We don't have to accept the status quo. We don't have to fail or accept the failed policies of far-left Democrat leadership. We don't have to accept Joe Biden and Andy Beshear's future for this Commonwealth. We can accept a different vision, a different future. That's why Robbie and I unveiled the Cameron Catch-Up Plan. This is an education plan about catching our kids up, about making sure that when it comes to those indicators for success, whether it's reading, science, math, that we make sure that our kids are in a position to succeed. Because if we want to fuel the workforce of Kentucky for the future, we've got to invest in our kids right now. We've got to make sure that our teachers are taken care of. There are a lot of hardworking teachers across this Commonwealth that are not buying into the far-left ideology of Andy Beshear and Joe Biden. And we need to support them. That's why I believe we got to make sure that they've got the resources that they need to do the job. To make sure that our schools are about reading, writing, and math, and they aren't incubators for liberal and progressive ideas. That's what's at stake here. And I'm not going to cede the ground to Andy Beshear on education, especially when he's closed our schools for 2 years. And especially when I'm married to a school teacher. Mackenzie and I believe wholeheartedly in making sure that we have a world-class education system. My sister-in-law is a teacher. My mother retired as a public educator. So we know what it means to invest in our kids and our grandkids. And we're going to do everything we possibly can to share that message along with our message on reducing crime and making sure that we're protecting the family unit, because that is what it's about. It's about our kids and our grandkids. It's about making sure that we preserve for them ideals that have propelled this nation forward since its very inception. Those ideals being faith, family, and community. That's what this race is about. It's about making sure that this Commonwealth and our kids and our grandkids are the best and brightest version of themselves. A lot of you in this room have talked to me about Theodore. You've seen the ad on television. I'll tell you, a little inside baseball. The reason Theodore was smiling so much, Vicki, David, you all appreciate this, is because Terry Carmack was behind the camera doing star jumps up in the air. But Theodore, at 20 months, is why Mackenzie and I are in this. It's why a lot of you in this room are in this, is because you care about your loved ones at home. You care about those kids and those grandkids. So I want to ask you this. If you believe that we have it within our capacity to make this Commonwealth a shining city on a hill, then I want you to work hard. I happen to play a little college football a few hours up the road. Play is a very generous term, as you all know. But I spent a lot of time there learning about hard work, perseverance, determination, and leaving it all on the field. So that's what I want to leave you with tonight. The idea that over the course of these next 49 days or so, between now and the November 7th race, let's leave it all on the field. Let's knock doors, let's make phone calls, let's walk neighborhoods, let's do what Ezra and others in the college Republicans are doing. Because this is our moment. This is our opportunity to tell the rest of the nation that our values matter. That we're going to stand up for common sense, conservative principles, and we don't want a Joe Biden Democrat, a Gavin Newsom Democrat. We don't want Andy Beshear's far-left policies to be at the top here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky anymore. This is our moment. This is our time. Let's go win on November 7th. May God bless you and God bless Kentucky.
Daniel Cameron. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much, Daniel. And what a great night we have to celebrate here. And up next is our Secretary of State, Michael Adams. He saved Kentucky's elections in 2020, the first year of his term. He's cleaned up the scandals that previously tarnished the office and diminished public confidence in our elections. And he's implemented more access to our systems, election integrity, than any other Secretary of State in the country. Michael is a native of Paducah, Kentucky, and the 86th Secretary of State, the 77th person to serve in that role. Michael attended McCracken County Public Schools. He graduated from U of L, attended Harvard Law School, happily married to Christina, proud father of Lucia. They are active members in their church. And let me introduce to you now our Secretary of State, Michael Adams.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Too kind. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you for that warm hometown welcome. It's always great to come back to the Purchase. I'm so proud to run alongside Daniel Cameron and Robbie Mills in this great Republican ticket. The ticket that I think is the strongest that we have ever fielded in our state's history for these top 7 constitutional offices. We learned something in 2020. It matters who the governor of a state is. A lot, actually. Am I right? Yeah. Right. We learned something else, too. It matters who the Secretary of State of a state is as well. In 2020, while other secretaries of state in other states were going rogue and not following their election laws, I followed mine. In fact, I did one better. I worked with Senator Robbie Mills to pass Kentucky's first photo ID to vote law, just like I promised I would do in my campaign. Thank you, Senator Mills. Under our leadership, Kentucky was the only state in 2020 to implement photo ID to vote during the pandemic. But that was just the beginning. We have removed 350,000 inactive voters from Kentucky's voter rolls. 350,000. That's 1 out of 10 voters on our rolls. These are people that moved away, or passed away, or were put away, and they're finally off our voter rolls. We have strengthened every layer of our election system against fraud. We have banned ballot harvesting. We've transitioned away from electronic voting machines to universal paper ballots. So we get the speed of a quick count, yes, but also the security of a paper trail. We've expanded post-election audits. We put video surveillance on our ballot boxes when people aren't voting. And something that's dear and dear to my heart, we have ended 100+ years of voter suppression by the Democrats by making it easier for working people to go vote. Yeah. Thank you. If you add it all together, I've got the most conservative record of any Secretary of State in America. Unfortunately, I'm paying a price for this. The left is highly mobilized and highly motivated. They're raising tons of money in my race and all our races. Most of us on the ticket are getting outspent, outgunned. We need your help. Politics is not a spectator sport, and we need the help of everybody in this room so we can stand together and beat this back. We can't go back to the lax election rules that we had under the Democrats just 4 years ago. We can't go back to the bloated voter rolls that we had under the Democrats just 4 years ago. And we can't go back to the nonstop scandals that we had in the Secretary of State's office under the Democrats just 4 years ago. Allison, Lincoln Grimes left me a broken office, but I have restored integrity to this office and integrity to our elections. In 2019, when I ran for this job, I gave it my all. I drove 50,000 miles across the Commonwealth. That's around the earth twice. I lost 17 pounds. I left it all on the field. You have my total commitment, but now I need your commitment as well. Stand with us, all of us, on this ticket. One more thing. I get asked a lot, Michael, you're the chief election official. Are we going to have lines to vote in November? That's a good question. We're working really hard to make sure we got enough poll workers and locations. But I've got a great plan, the Michael Adams plan, to make sure there's no lines on Election Day. Here it is. Walk in, vote straight Republican, and walk out. Yeah. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I will say that we are giving each of the candidates a donation tonight, a small donation from our committee, but they do need your help. They need your contributions across the board, so please don't forget them and help them out. Well, over the last 20 years, Russell Coleman has taken on violent crime at the highest levels of law enforcement. He's a pro-life, pro-family conservative Republican who has the hard-won experience to keep Kentucky families safe as our next Attorney General. In 2017, President Trump picked Russell to be the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Kentucky, and the U.S. Senate unanimously confirmed him. As a chief law enforcement officer for 53 counties, Russell was called the best prosecutor in America and formed strong partnerships with law enforcement agencies to help take criminals off the streets. Another Western Kentuckian, born in Paducah, Russell Coleman was raised in Mayfield and then in rural Daviess County and Logan counties. He earned his undergraduate law degree from the UK. He now lives in Oldham County with his wife, Ashley, and 3 young children. Russell Coleman, everybody.
Friends, thank you. Thank you, and since I last stood at this podium behind Racer One last year, a year ago, in this magnificent facility, hopefully I have learned a thing or two as a candidate. Hopefully I have improved as a candidate, and for your benefit, that means my remarks are shorter and shorter as I go along. I grew up in a rural area. My mind likes to simplify things, and so I will leave with two brief points this evening. The first is I'll show a little leg, and I'll just go ahead and tell you the primary reason I'm here, friends, the primary reason I'm here to spend some time with some wonderful folks, get a good meal, and sit, I don't know, about 15 yards front row from the next governor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Daniel J. Cameron. That and to dine with some extraordinary people, some wonderful folks with the Taylors, so many friends here. And the second point is, it's just to say thank you. Just to say thank you. I'm new at this as a candidate. I'm still so new at this that when you ask someone to give their time, you ask someone to give their resources, as many of you all have. You ask someone to associate their reputation with you, as a number of your legislators have done. That's heavy. That's heavy. That means something. There's an obligation that flows from that. I'm only able to stand here and talk about why I'm running. Many of you all have heard this. You've heard me talk about why I'm seeking to get back in the fight, how law enforcement for me is a calling. From my young days growing up wanting to be an FBI special agent, to being a state prosecutor, to ultimately serving as your United States Attorney for President Trump. You've heard me talk about calling. For me, this race, for me and my family, it's about my family. It's about my family and yours. It's about how I can protect, with everything I've got, every experience, every relationship, every tool in the toolkit, how I can lean in to protect my family and yours from the poison we're seeing pour from over a porous southwest border, when we exist in an environment where as little as one pill can kill our sons and daughters, an environment where we're seeing violence spike, not just in Fayette, not just in Jefferson, we're seeing violence spike all across our Commonwealth. An environment where we're seeing an agenda come out of Washington, D.C. from this administration that doesn't reflect the founders' view of our Constitution, to better protect from that poison, for better protect from that violence, and to step in the shoes of what has been an extraordinary Attorney General who has demonstrated how that office can be used to push back when Washington overreaches, to better protect our families. And let me say this, I'm only able to talk about these things. I am only here because of you. And look, it is customary at an event where you stand behind these two men to draw some leadership lesson from these two great presidents, particularly when we're joined by members of the College Republicans. Well, you don't have to look far this evening, because at dark times in our country's history, you saw optimism and you saw hope from these two gentlemen as leaders. That's what you saw from this podium a moment ago, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you will see from this podium when my colleagues, this extraordinary ticket, speak, when we hear from some of my colleagues. So please, let's vote. Let's support these last 44 days. Let's lean in to bring hope to this Commonwealth. Please know how grateful I am to each of you. Please know how grateful I am, and please let's lean in and bring hope and optimism to elect Daniel Cameron as the 64th governor of this Commonwealth.
Thank you. Now we're going to turn to somebody. She's not the MC tonight. Last year, if you were here, she was our MC. And I was glad to have her do this. I asked her if she wanted to do it anyway, and she said no. Allison was first elected as the Kentucky's 38th state treasurer in 2015, re-elected in 2019. And both times she received the most votes of any candidate on the ballot for any race. Since taking office, she's returned a record amount of unclaimed property to Kentuckians, over 142.
171 now.
170. You're going to change your website.
Yeah, we do.
I'm going to mark it down. 171 million. Wow. This is a historic achievement, as Ball has returned more unclaimed property in one term than any state treasurer in Kentucky history. She started her first entrepreneurial venture at age 9, as I understand it, selling pencils with positive messages on them. This lady has lots of energy, lots of positivity. She's our next auditor. This is, come up and speak to us now.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Hey, does this mic work? Yeah. No, okay. Yeah, you got one. Okay, great.
Allison Ball.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It is wonderful to be with you today. You've heard a lot of candidates speak, and you've got a few more to hear for the rest of the evening. And I want to tell you how excited and encouraged I am that you are here. We know the Democrats always turn up in Lexington and in Louisville, and it is absolutely essential that you all turn out on Election Day and a few days before it. And it's essential that you infect everybody around you with energy and enthusiasm for the Republicans that are running. So I'm excited, and I'm proud of you that you are here. This really matters. This makes a difference that you are here today. So I want to encourage you, when you leave, spread the word. Remember what you hear. Talk about these candidates, because we need your help. You've heard it a few times. It is absolutely true. We need your help. It has been a tremendous honor to serve you as state treasurer. I'm just finishing up my second term. I've got a little bit of time left on that. I'm on the ballot right now to be your state auditor, and it's been a wonderful privilege to serve you in that role. I try to tell people, if you want to know what I will be like as state auditor, you look and see what I have been like as state treasurer. I have been a watchdog of taxpayer dollars. I make sure that whatever is paid in Kentucky is legal, is correct, is constitutional. If it's not, then I've stopped it. And I always say this is a watchdog role, and the auditor's role is also a watchdog role. And if you want to know the difference, the treasurer is the watchdog on the front end, protects those dollars, protects the bank account at the front end, and the auditor is the watchdog on the back end, makes sure that once money has been spent, that it is used correctly, and if not, then there's accountability for that misuse. So it is an important job. We got to get a conservative in there in that role to protect our taxpayer dollars, who believes in fiscal responsibility. And there's one thing I really want you to know. I want you to remember this when you leave here today. There's a significant issue that is happening nationally that you need to be aware of. You may know about it, but I want to make sure you've got this down, because it is serious and it is real. It is something I've been fighting from the treasurer's office, and I will continue to fight in the auditor's office. And it is a movement known as ESG. Do you know what that is? Danny, you know what it is. You're nodding your head. If you do, can you kind of raise your hand so I've got a little bit of an idea of how much this room knows? Okay, very good. A lot of folks do, some folks don't. I'm going to give you a real quick primer on what that is. So as treasurer, I deal with our investments. And once upon a time, our investments were about making sure you got a good return. That's what everybody did with investments. That's what everybody did with state pensions. They invested money to get good returns, so that way when people retired, there'd be money for them at the end of their work life. Well, in the last few years, there's been a shift to pursue what's known as ESG, and that stands for Environmental, Social, and Governance. You've probably heard of this, but I want to make sure you understand it. ESG investing. And what that says is, no, you don't want to invest for returns. You want to invest for certain political, social outcomes. All of it is progressive, all of it is liberal, all of it is dangerous. It's things that we would not agree with in this room. So it uses dollars as leverage to reward or punish companies or try to eliminate companies from existence. Right now, the E part has been serious. It stands for environmental, and it's been targeting the coal and oil and gas industries. I'm from eastern Kentucky. I'm from the mountains. We still have a coal industry. You also have a coal industry in western Kentucky. Oil and gas is still important to Kentucky. It's important nationally because we need to have energy independence. It's something we critically need. And the E part has been focused very strongly by this ESG movement to try and wipe out those industries. So I've been fighting that on your behalf in the state treasurer's office, and I want to give you an example of why this is important. Last year, Senator Robbie Mills, who'll be your next lieutenant governor, he sponsored a bill that I was privileged to help work on, and that bill is what we call the Fossil Fuel Boycott Bill. And it said if you are a company that is boycotting the fossil fuel industry in Kentucky, you're boycotting, you want to try to wipe out those industries, then in Kentucky, we are not going to invest in you, we're not going to include you in our portfolios, and we're not going to have a government contract with you. So this meant business. It is now the law. The Treasurer's Office is the one that enforces that and makes sure that is happening. So earlier this year, I issued a list of 11 companies that we had identified that were actively engaged in boycotting the fossil fuel industry. And I want to give you an example of this so you can know how concrete and real this is. There was one global bank. It's a major bank. It's one that you've heard of before. There's one bank, and on their website right now, it has 4 things that they will not finance. They will not do business with 4 types of businesses. And those 4 are, it's on their website right now, those 4 are child labor, human trafficking, the destruction of World Heritage sites like the Taj Mahal, like putting a parking lot over Stonehenge, and the 4th one is the coal industry. They will not invest and they will not finance coal companies. So this is a serious issue that is happening all over the world right now, and Kentucky is pushing back. This year there was a bill passed, and Senator Mills carried it in the Senate. It was a House bill, but he carried it in the Senate. And that bill made Kentucky one of the strongest anti-ESG states in the nation. So I'm proud of what we're doing to fight back against that on your behalf in Kentucky. I've been doing that in the Treasurer's office. I'll tell you, there have been 2 hit pieces about me in the New York Times in the last year. I think when the New York Times is writing a hit piece about you, you were doing something right. So that's been happening. So I want you to know about this issue. You need to know, you need to be aware. It is real, it is happening. Kentucky is fighting against it. Mark Metcalf will take up that role once I leave this office, and you're going to hear from him in a moment. And I'll have a role in this in the auditor's office too, because I'll make sure there's accountability, that there is follow through on this, and that we are making sure we protect our investments and we do the right thing. We push back against the ESG movement. So with that, please spread the word about my race, about all of our races. We have a tremendous ticket, and like I said, we need you. You have the ability to make or break an election. I don't know if you realize the amount of influence you have in this room, but we need your help. So when you leave here today, you've got 45 days to make this happen. Please be excited. Please be energized. Please spread the word. Tell people you go to church with, that you work with. Let them know we have a tremendous slate of candidates. We are ready to go to make sure that Kentucky is as great as it can be and fight for conservative principles that we believe in. So with that, God bless you. Be ready to go. We got lots of work to do, and we can make this happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Allison. Mark Metcalf has practiced law for 37 years as a private practitioner, state and federal prosecutor, and as a judge on the U.S. Immigration Court in Miami, Florida. He was selected Kentucky's outstanding county attorney. In 2013, he has twice represented Kentucky before the U.S. Supreme Court as Special Assistant Attorney General. Mark is a combat veteran who served as command judge advocate for the 149th Maneuver Enhancement Brigade combat support in Richmond, Kentucky. He holds the rank of lieutenant colonel. Mark also served as garrison command judge advocate at Victory Base Complex in Baghdad and on special assignment. In civilian life, Mr. Metcalf serves as the Girard County Attorney in Lancaster, Kentucky, and he has been elected since 1990 all the way up through 2022. And so, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to our next treasurer, Mark Metcalf.
Thank you. Thank you very much. As county attorney, you never get a standing O, believe me. In fact, you get a lot of O's, but they're thrown at you. Thanks so much for that warm welcome. It's the warmest welcome east of the Mississippi and west of Garrett County, and I love it. Thank you. Now, let's forget all about 2024. Forget all about it. Forget all about 2024. The job at hand is right here, right now, and our job is to elect Daniel Cameron, the next governor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. That's our job. People who work on that very tiny campaign staff and our volunteers always say, don't forget to say something about yourself when you're talking well about the ticket. And Greg, you've said everything, so I don't need to say a thing. But I want everyone here tonight to act over the next 5.5 weeks as if the outcome of this election depended on you personally. If you will do that, we will win this election. If you don't, we will not. It's that simple. In primary elections, they like to say, send your literature, message the Republican base that has voted in 3 out of the last 5 Republican primaries. Act as if this is a Republican primary, but at the end result, we're going to be electing a governor. Remember that 1 out of 5 Republican voter who votes once every 5 years. Because that's the voter we have to get to. It's the casual Republican voter. And they're the guy that sits next to you in the diner. They're the person who sits next to you in church. They're the person who's your neighbor. They're the person who is conservative, but for some reason forgets to vote. And for any of a number of reasons, forgets to vote. In Garrett County, some of you know that Jonathan Schell is from Garrett County, we get out and hustle the votes. I've actually driven voters to the polls before because the outcome of these elections is important. Why did a guy from Garrett County, why did Mike Adams, why did Russell Coleman, why did Allison Ball, why did Daniel Cameron, all of us drive anywhere from 3 to 4 hours to get here tonight? Because you are important, because elections are important, and they depend on us to win the governorship for Daniel Cameron and the Republican Party of Kentucky. That's why we're here. It's because you all make the difference between a narrow loss and a win. And a win is a win. A win is a win. And to keep this, to put a very fine point on it, let's remember, who is shut down Andy? Daniel calls him TV Andy. That's a good one, too. That's a good one, TV Andy. I like that. I think of Beaver Cleaver. That's shut down Andy. That's shut down Andy. Well, he's vetoed 110 pieces of Republican-led legislation. That's shut down Andy. And we overrode every one of those vetoes. What's the lesson here? It's time for us to veto Andy Beshear. That's what it is. If we veto Andy Beshear, if Daniel Cameron wins by 5%, Mike Adams wins by 25%. And so does Russell Coleman. So does Jonathan Schell. And Maybe Mark Metcalf. But Allison Ball wins by 90%. She's gone. My best line of the night, and Allison missed it. So, what I'm going to do as your state treasurer is this. First of all, I'm not going to forget who put me here. Back home in Garrett County, everybody who asks for it has my personal cell phone. So it's traveled all across Kentucky. I get calls up until 11 o'clock every night, and I take them because being county attorney, it's an important job. And I want people to feel that when they reach out for help, there is somebody at the other end. And that's what you get with Mike Adams. That's what you get with Daniel Cameron. It's what you get with Allison Ball, Jonathan Schell, and Russell Coleman. You get somebody at the other end who cares. And I want to say this, so there's no doubt about the importance of this election. We will either stand for the coal fields and the people who are the hardest working souls on the planet, or we will let Joe Biden and company make us ever more dependent on Middle East oil and oil coming from the communist nation of Venezuela. And he's cutting deals with them every day. Coal is one of the most precious minerals going. And what happened when we missed coal? Well, earlier this year, in January and February, right here in Western Kentucky, we had rolling blackouts. TVA never had a rolling blackout until Joe Biden and Andy Beshear took over. Yes, that's right. And guess what they did? Guess what they did? When the base load came down for electric current, here's what they did. Green energy wasn't cutting it. So they recommissioned coal burning power plants and started burning natural gas. Got obtained right here in Kentucky. So green energy is a failure in many respects. In the future it may be great, but right now we're killing our people. I'll give you an example. 18% in inflation rate in eastern Kentucky just this year, and what it cost to electrify a home and a business, far in excess of the rate of inflation. And they expect Kentucky families to keep up with this. They don't care about Kentucky families. They don't care about the people that work. They care about this green agenda and the elites in Washington and New York who cannot, or who have not, who have never worked for a living. Let me just put it to you another way. What happens to the coal being mined in Harlan County? Well, I've been there. Met with people who mine the coal. At least six big mines going full tilt. Miners making more than they've made in years. Where's that coal going? I asked. Well, right. The metallurgical, the foundry coal is going to China. That's right. I heard somebody say it. Where's the thermal coal going? North Carolina. Why? Because green energy failed there too. And now they're using good old Kentucky bituminous to power their plants in North Carolina. Green energy does not cut it. And I will push back against the ESG movement with all I've got. But I need your support to let me do that. Just a few other things. And I'll get off the stage so you all can go home and enjoy your evening. Just a little bit about me, since I've been told to say something about me. I'm a 6-term county attorney, and I'm the only guy on either the Republican or Democrat ticket that's ever served as a county official. I know where the rubber meets the road. It meets the road right in the county governments with our fiscal courts, with our sheriffs, with our county clerks and our circuit clerks and our PVAs, our district and circuit judges. I've been there. And so I will take that experience and put it to good use if you elect me as treasurer of Kentucky. I was Kentucky's outstanding county attorney in 2013. My child support office was #1 in the state for counties our size in 2017. I've sat with the mother or the father who needs child support. I see what they have to do to make ends meet. That's the kind of guy who's asking tonight for your vote. And I'll leave you with this. Andy Beshear vetoed legislation that prohibited men from participating in women's sports. He vetoed legislation protecting the unborn. He vetoed legislation protecting minors from sex reassignment surgery. There could be no clearer choice in this election than Daniel Cameron. There is no other choice. Andy Beshear is not a choice. He's a failure. We do not need to put him back doing the same things he's done for the last 4 years. In Villa Hills, 2 weeks ago, I'm walking through, knocking on doors. It's a Super Saturday, and we're going to make it count. Come to a good Republican household, large number of Republican households. We ask, we need you all to, will you support the Republican ticket? And they said yes, and we said, well, great. What do you think about this governor's race? Well, I think I'm going to vote for Andy Beshear. I said, why? And very nicely, I wasn't challenging, wasn't confrontational. Why? Well, he's just a nice guy, and I think he's done well. I said, are you aware that he vetoed legislation prohibiting men from participating in women's sports, vetoed legislation prohibiting abortion before 15 weeks? Are you aware that he vetoed legislation that protected minors from sex reassignment surgery? And the nice lady, and I do mean nice, said, I wasn't aware of that. She said, I'm going to vote for Daniel Cameron. That's right. That's right. So, please, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, tell your employees, tell your family. This election is the most important election that we're going to be doing until next year, but next year is next year. This is the fight. And if it's not Daniel Cameron, then who? And if not, then when? Now is the time. And Daniel Cameron is our candidate. Thank you all very much.
I have one more thing, and then I'd like to do something a little bit, maybe unorthodox, but Jonathan Schell could not be here tonight. I understand he's at an FFA event this afternoon and this evening, but Jonathan is a homegrown conservative who lives in the values he learned on a family farm in Girard County, where they grow flowers, corn, and pumpkins, and raise cattle. And he's pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, pro-growth, and pro-farmer. He's married to Brooke, and they have 4 children. And just for the record, let's give him an applause for tonight and our support. Here at the end, I'd like Mark and Daniel and where did Mike go? Did Mike leave? Oh, okay. Well, come on up here, guys, just in the front. We're gonna end this tonight. First of all, thank you for coming out this evening, everybody. Thank you for driving in. Lots of folks. And here's okay. All right, Robbie. I would like to send them off with you all giving them a great round of applause for what they've done, what they stand for, and victory coming in November. Ladies and gentlemen. You're dismissed. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Have a good night.